Update. Am I the a-hole for telling people the real reason why I skipped my friend's wedding? Original post. I, 35 female, am still friends with some of the people I went to college with. One of them, Debbie, fake name, 36 female, got married this past January after being engaged for 2 years. Early in the planning process, Debbie had asked my 6-year-old daughter, who was 5 at the time, to be the flower girl. We agreed, and she had the dress sent to us right away. We barely spoke about the subject for a while. Then the wedding was delayed by almost a year. The original date was in March of 24. I'm still not sure why. I've heard 3 or 4 different reasons. By the time the actual wedding date came around, the flower girl dress no longer fit my daughter. We didn't find out until roughly 10 days before the wedding, admittedly my fault, and I texted Debbie right away to ask what I should do about it. Her first reply was, "Figure it out." I tried to ask her where she'd bought the dress, where I could get a similar one, or whether it would be okay for my daughter to wear a different dress. I basically gave her a list of ways I could fix this and asked her what she preferred. Debbie responded with, "I don't have time for this. Stop making your whale daughter my problem." Obviously, I decided against attending the wedding after that. As far as I'm concerned, we're no longer friends. And to be clear, I know that up until this point, I was not the a-hole. I didn't tell anyone about it at first, but our absence was obvious. My friends missed me, and my daughter was supposed to be the only flower girl. Whenever Debbie was asked about it, she apparently just said we'd had an argument, but it wasn't a big deal. When our mutual friends and acquaintances asked me, I told them the truth, without sugarcoating it or trying to defend Debbie. I even showed my friends the text messages that proved everything. Everyone took my side. About a week ago, Debbie called me. She apologized for what she said about my daughter, but told me I had no idea how stressed she was at the time. She said it wasn't fair for her to lose friends over a mistake she'd made when she was under so much pressure. Again, I don't think I was in the wrong for skipping the wedding, but I'm wondering whether I took it too far by telling our mutuals why. Edit. Yes, I know I should have made sure the dress still fit sooner. I already know that was my mistake, and I'm not blaming Debbie for it. That's not what I'm asking about. Now for the top comments before reading the update 6 months later. Stop making your whale daughter my problem. She actually said that? And you're asking if telling the truth somehow makes you an a-hole? She spoke her truth. Why can't you? Now she has no friends and is trying to backtrack. Shaking my head. Not the a-hole, but you would be if you accepted her back as a close friend, even after an apology. I won't. I will appreciate any apologies that come my way, but we're no longer friends. Not the a-hole. Doesn't matter how stressed and overwhelmed you are, you never talk about a child or adult in that way. That's part of the reason why I believe I might have been the a-hole. I don't believe she would have talked about my daughter that way if she wasn't extremely stressed out. Obviously not an excuse, but certainly something I have to take into consideration. The fact that it even crossed her mind is reprehensible and unforgivable. If she had had a go at you for not checking until now, that would be understandable as stress. The fact that attacking a child's physical appearance, when a wedding had been delayed 2 years, so of course it wasn't going to fit, was even a possibility for her, makes her someone you should not continue to associate with. She's now reaped what she's sown. What pissed me off the most about what she said was that she insulted my daughter over something beyond her control. The dress didn't fit because she's growing up, and not for any other reason. I deliberately choose not to buy my friends' children clothing because I know they're unlikely to last long. She said it wasn't fair for her to lose friends over a mistake she'd made when she was under so much pressure. This one thing would not stop people from being her friend, but it sounds like this was just the last thing that did it. I don't know much about how she was to other people these last few months. She was polite to me until what she said about my daughter. Out of all our mutual friends, 2 of them would definitely stop being friends with anyone who spoke about a child like that. Now for the update 6 months later. Hey guys, I wasn't going to update, but a friend of mine brought the situation up a few days ago and I remembered posting here. After my post back in March, I didn't hear anything from Debbie for a while. I did speak to my friends a lot, and they told me that she continued trying to get them on her side for a while. From what I gather, her story always matched mine. I forgot to make sure the dress fit. I apologized and asked how she preferred I fix it. She insulted my kid, and as I remember discussing in the comments, whale of a daughter is a better translation. Everyone continued taking my side. Apparently, I wasn't the only one Debbie had problems with before the wedding. My case was just the worst one. There's no doubt that the dress fiasco was my fault. I had a lot going on at the time and several reasons why I forgot to make sure it fit sooner. But no excuse can change the fact that I messed up. But I still don't think giving Debbie options on how I could proceed was the wrong move. I've been a bride before, and I wouldn't want someone else to make a decision about my wedding without giving me the final say. And I can't ignore that her reaction was to insult my daughter. Debbie first texted me in June. She asked me to help her clear the air with everyone because most of our mutuals hadn't spoken to her since April. I was tired of all this, so I told everyone that Debbie had already apologized to me. I made it very clear that while we're no longer friends, I sincerely don't care whether they remain in contact with her or not. She texted me once again early in July. She told me that a couple of our mutuals were talking to her again, but it wasn't the same as it used to be. She asked me whether I was still mad at her. I told her I'm not, and I wish her the best, but I don't think we can continue this friendship. I said I was sorry for the dress fiasco and I understood that she was stressed at the time, but I'll never be able to look past what she did. It would have taken her less time to give me directions than it took to call my daughter a whale. I can forgive rudeness with time, but not insults, especially towards my children. We haven't spoken since. I haven't blocked her, but I have no intention of reaching out again, and I don't think she does either. Some of our mutuals are speaking to her again. Both my best friends from that group want nothing to do with her. I sincerely don't care what anyone does. I won't pretend this never happened, but I've moved on. Like I said, I'm not mad anymore. My daughter will be a flower girl at my cousin's wedding in December, and my family's doing very well. Life has been crazy for a while, but things are finally getting calmer. Good update. Glad your daughter still gets to be a flower girl for someone. Hopefully your ex-friend has done some serious reflecting on her behavior. All it takes is one thing said in a moment to ruin relationships forever. Yes, something said in a moment, but it was the thing that was said. Such a hurtful, ugly thing to say. And the fact that that thought was in her head at all, I could never forgive that either. I personally don't think you were in the wrong in any way whatsoever. Your daughter is going to grow. That's what kids do. The dress she bought was more than likely not going to last for another 6 months size-wise. If she had thought things through, which she doesn't seem to do in general, she would have waited and talked to you about dress sizes. Then when the wedding got delayed, that added another layer of, this kid isn't going to be the same size as last year. She deserves what's happened. Next story. Am I the a-hole for not letting my daughter's boyfriend propose at my vow renewal? I, 50 male, have been married to my wife for almost 25 years. We plan on throwing a huge vow renewal in December. It's basically going to be like a second wedding, the whole shebang. We have 7 kids together, and this regards our baby girl Lala, 20 female. Her boyfriend came to me a little over a month ago and asked me for her hand and also asked if he could propose at the vow renewal. He's a great guy, and we get along super well, and I genuinely like him for my daughter. I said yes to both originally and was super excited. A few weeks passed, and he asked if he could also invite a few family members of his. I was expecting maybe his parents and siblings, but instead, he sent me a list of 25 family members he wants to add. I have a few problems with this. 1. His family does not like my daughter. They are Asian and do not like that their son is with a black woman. And considering nearly everyone else there will be black, to be fair, my daughter says he always sticks up for her, and I have witnessed this myself. 2. He expects us to fund these people like regular guests. As I mentioned, this would be just like a wedding, so 25 extra people is a lot of money. I told him I couldn't accommodate that many people. He got angry and said I was ruining his special moment and that I don't really care about Lala. He also said I can't do anything if they just show up. I told him they absolutely will not show up. I then told him he still had my permission to marry my daughter, but he was not allowed to propose at the vow renewal. Now he, his family, and my 2 sons all say I was being an a-hole and should just suck it up. But my other kids and my wife say that I'm not an a-hole and that he's crazy. Obviously, Lala does not know about any of this. Am I the a-hole? Now for the top comments. Not the a-hole, and he's not the great guy you think he is. The fact that he made the comment about you not being able to do anything if they just showed up tells you exactly what kind of person he is. Yeah, I gotta say I think it's time to bring OP's daughter into the loop. This is pretty hostile and egregious behavior, and she needs to know about it before potentially agreeing to marry him. OP, imagine that after their wedding he stops sticking up for her and things deteriorate. Would you feel rotten for having had this information about his character and not sharing it with her? She's an adult, and if she's mature enough to get married, she's mature enough to value honesty and open communication over a fairy tale surprise, even if she's momentarily disappointed. Sticking up for someone in the moment is great, but knowing his family doesn't like her, and it's a racial thing. He wants to bring 25 of them to an event celebrating your love with your wife, where their worst fear, him permanently attached to her, will be sprung on them? That's just asking for a disaster. A reasonable person would want to protect their future spouse from such vitriol during such an intimate moment, and certainly wouldn't want to stoke any flames by forcing it to occur at another big event, where any confrontation would happen in front of everyone she loves. Not the a-hole. He wants to have the big moment, probably for social media, when he proposes, but he wants you to foot the bill. How endearing. Asking to horn in on someone else's celebration is tacky AF by itself, but adding in a demand for you to pay for 25 extra guests is some shocking entitlement. And then the icing on the cake. It sounds like they are opposed or hostile to your family because of the color of your skin. Wow, guess you've learned your lesson. You can't give this one an inch or he'll demand a mile. Yeah, I was fine with parents and siblings, but they took it too far. Last story. Am I the a-hole for choosing my grandpa to walk me down the aisle and dance with me instead of my stepfather? At 25 female, I'm getting married in a year and I asked my grandpa to walk me down the aisle and to be the one I dance with for the father-daughter dance. He was so happy to say yes, and my grandma was super happy for him. This upset my mom and stepfather, who felt he was more deserving and that it would traditionally be him if not my biological father. I told them beforehand and they were not happy. My stepfather told me he expected me to change my mind and walk alone and dance with no one but my husband or ask him. He said there was no middle ground because anything different is disrespect to him and his place in my life. I asked my grandpa anyway, and Mom asked me what I was thinking and if I realized how bad I would make the two of them look because it just appears like she can't pick a good father for me when one left and the other I reject as a father. To provide some context about my decision, and this is all stuff my mom and stepfather know. Mom was single, dating until I was 9. My father was never in my life. My grandparents, Mom's parents, were there for me. And Grandpa was the father figure I had. I didn't have any uncles or other male relatives. It was him, and he was so good to me. I used to spend weekends at my grandparents' house. Sometimes I'd spend 3 or 4 nights at my grandparents' house. It was never a set schedule, but that's just how it went. I loved being there, and I felt more supported there than with my mom. My grandparents provided a lot for me. They took me back to school shopping every August. They used to make sure I had enough money in my lunch account at school, and they were the people who picked me up when I got sick at school. Mom wasn't a total deadbeat, but I think she was more focused on her personal life than on me at times. When she met my stepfather, he was eager to step into the role of dad, but I didn't feel that need for him, and I felt weird about him coming on so strong. We spent time together, he bought me stuff, and he moved in after 4 months of me knowing him. He offered to adopt me, which I always said no to. And even after he was on the scene, I went to my grandparents' house a lot and spent many overnights there, sometimes entire weekends, or even entire weeks. It was Grandpa I looked up to as a father figure, and whenever I was asked to write about dads or father figures in school, I wrote about him. I made him Father's Day cards every year and bought him stuff for the day, and when my stepfather had kids with my mom, I'd wish him one too. But I never claimed him as my own dad. And even before a lot of that stuff, my stepfather was highly critical of my grandparents, but Grandpa especially. He said they were just too involved and that they should have left room for me to learn to be on my own more when Mom couldn't be there. But he also thought they should have paid for his and Mom's wedding, which became a huge thing. Then he called my grandpa creepy for being so close with me. They weren't in the same room often, and more often than not, my stepfather took digs or tried to start fights with my grandparents. My grandparents continued providing for me after my stepfather married my mom. They didn't say it at the time, but later they said they suspected he would try to use paying for stuff to get me to do things I didn't want to, like changing my last name and being adopted, and even calling him dad. And I think they were right to think that way, because when my grandparents got me my first car, he offered to buy me a brand new car, like a shiny new one, but he said we'd need to talk about what we are to each other. I just said no, and the car I had was fine. Am I the a-hole? Not the a-hole. You asked the man who actually was your father figure to walk you down the aisle and dance with you. That's not disrespect. That's honoring the person who showed up for you your whole life. Your stepfather may have wanted the role, but wanting it doesn't make him entitled to it. He's making this about his ego and how it looks, while you're making it about love and gratitude. Big difference. Weddings are not participation trophies. You don't owe him a symbolic role he never earned. Your grandpa did. Full stop. Thank you for seeing that. My grandpa's been there since day one, and he always comes through. And he and Grandma have enriched my life so much since I was little. Without them, I'm not sure I'd be as stable and happy as I am today. Your grandparents were there for you in a way your parents were not. I also don't get your stepfather's hostility towards the grandparents who were there for you as a little girl. Was he hoping to push them out of your life? And why? The bride decides who, if anyone, walks her down the aisle. For most women, it's their dad. But not everyone has a loving father, so they go with brother, uncle, stepfather, or, yes, grandfather. Some women without close male relatives will have their mother or aunt. At any rate, having your grandfather walk you would be most meaningful to you, not the a-hole. For me, he acts like he wanted them to not be involved, because then I'd sit around wishing for a dad and jump at the first guy who came around, him. He seems to think they were the reason I never longed for that. But maybe I wouldn't have cared about that either way. We can't say for certain. What I can say is I would have been miserable without them.